very good evening to everyone watching. Thank you for making time and be with us here on the Evening Review. My name is Toiwan Jabela. Tonight on the platform we are joined by the Acting High Commissioner for Malaysia in Namibia, that is Dato Dr. Mohamad Rameez bin Yahaya. And he is here to really also just share his country's perspective on what is currently happening in the Middle East, namely Israel and Palestine, Gaza. Doc, thank you very much for making time. It's such a pleasure really to have you here on the platform. First and foremost, I want to understand what Malaysia's foreign policy, if you like, on Israel and Palestine, that whole conflict that has raged for 75 years or so. What has been your government's official position?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Namibian Sun, for having me today. Thank you also, Mr. Tobio, the editor of Namibian Sun. Back to your issue, Malaysia's official position is very clear.
Yeah.
We support the cause of the Palestinian, especially we support the cause for Palestine to have their own land.
Yeah.
And we do abide by the so-called two-state solution, which was actually determined by the so-called Oslo Accord, whereby they agreed through the pre-1967 pre-existing agreement that both Israel and Palestine should have their own state, living together side by side and to be peacefully. That's our position. Our official position is always that of supporting Palestine.
Yeah.
For their land. We have been very adamant on this. In fact, for your kind information, our support for the Palestinian cause led to us during 20-30 years ago and still continuing to stamp in our passport saying that no Malaysians are allowed to enter into Israel as well as into South Africa during the apartheid system, during that occasion.
Yeah.
So in other words, we are always there in order to promote the human rights of people, to their dignity, and to conquer with what Malcolm X, or so-called Malik Shabanas in his Islam, mentioned that we have to ensure the human dignity, the human rights are there, justice is there. There's not supposed to be any violation towards that human right and dignity.
Yeah. The question that has been asked, and I detest that question now, but I suppose because it became a cliche on in the Western media. You know, whenever they called anyone to a platform like this, the first question was always to say whether they condemn what Hamas did on the 7th of October, entering into Israel, committing the atrocities, if you like, that they did. When you heard on that morning here in Namibia, it must have been morning, because I woke up to that news that morning. When you woke up to that morning, what was going through your mind?
It's a very delicate issue. For us, we do agree that this kind of act should not be construed and should not be so-called supported in any act of human rights violation, especially the killing of civilians. We do agree on that basis. To answer you correctly, we have to look into the equation of what the United Nations Charter really clearly denotes. It clearly denotes the issue of the political independence, territorial integrity, and sovereignty of a nation. That three concepts need to be linked together. There should be political independence, and then we have the so-called territorial integrity and sovereignty. This is the concept or principles or precepts of the United Nations. How UN existed in 1945 after League of Nations went down, and how states have been created. And that's what we always sanctify ourselves. And when there's no political independence, then how can you have territorial integrity, and how could you have also the so-called sovereignty of a state? So as I clearly mentioned earlier, we wanted to have that concept of two-state solution. We have always believed on that, and we also believe the issue that there should be a capital, we call the capital East Jerusalem or Al-Quds in Arab, for the Palestinian. It was agreed before. It was agreed those days also when the creation of Israel was created, that this was supposed to be the way. Unfortunately, ding dong, sorry, forgive me for the so-called informality. Do not know what happened, what transpired. There were clashes, there were political differences, there were issues among the Middle Eastern powers at that time, and that leads to us this issue of Hamas being created, and for us in Malaysia, what is there for the rights of Palestine? How are they going to have the political independence? I don't agree with the connotation that we should have justification to kill someone, to kill civilians especially, to kill women, children, babies, to bomb hospitals and everything. I don't agree that on that basis. And we do agree with the issue of self-defense.
Yes.
But it has to be proportionate. It has to be in accordance to international humanitarian law. It has to be in accordance to so-called international law. And we have the Geneva Protocols, the 4 Geneva Protocols. We have to go for it. But when you start, of course, the October 7 elevated the cases, but you must understand the root cause of it, what actually happened. I don't say that what they did was right. I don't say that also what they did was wrong. But what I'm saying is that if everything was solved rightly before, based on the Oslo Accord, then this thing might be a peaceful way. You know, the root cause of the event started even before, when Ottoman Empire broke down in the 1917. As you say, it's 75 years. It may be around 100 years ago. And then we have the Balfour Declaration, the partition of the so-called state of the creation of Israel, the birth of Israel, and then the automated state of Palestine. So this was the issue. We don't connote to the issue that you need to justify an act of getting your political independence, territorial integrity, sovereignty via the act of terror against civilian. Okay, I don't construe it as terrorism. I don't consider it as terrorism, but act of terror. Because for us, especially for Malaysia, for many other countries in the world, we always believe that the Palestinian people need to have land. That's why that the concept of land for peace. And that was agreeable by Israel those days. I'm not talking on behalf of Israel, no. I'm talking on behalf of the international community.
Of course.
And looking again, if you see the resolution 3314 of the United Nations, by United Nations General Assembly, it stated clearly via the annex that an act of aggression is the act against the sovereignty of a state, political independence, territorial integrity, how you attack another state, you blockade that state, you don't give the, you act aggressively against the civilians of that state. But there is also a clause in Article 7 of operative paragraph 7 of the so-called resolution, stated clearly that although this can be considered as aggression, but the act of aggression shall not be construed for those who are fighting for their rights of independence, for their rights of having a land. That's what happened to Namibia. When you fought for your independence, you are being construed at that time as terrorists.
And that is exactly, I mean, for us, we have a different understanding of what is happening there. People being called terrorists, and Hamas itself is labeled by others, including itself, as a liberation movement that is fighting for its people. And they are also saying that the October 7 event didn't happen in isolation. It was itself also a reaction to a series of things that happened.
Before that, yes.
Is that also how you understand it?
it was a series of escalation of issues rising from the so-called, we can construe there's a benchmark, there's a goalpost. It started probably in 1967, where the so-called Arab-Israeli war, the 7 Days War, what happened, how the territory was confiscated, how the Golan Heights was taken, how the Sinai Peninsula was taken, how the West Bank and the so-called currently Gaza Strip was taken. This happened from then, and it continues. And it doesn't happen in isolation. I do agree with you. How could you have your own citizen being violated when they are praying? How could you have your own citizen receiving medication, being bombarded in the hospital? How could you have also your own citizen being encroached their freedom by army, military coming inside and ransack and then causing discomfort towards the family? These are the things, it happened in Namibia, it happened also in Africa, it happened in many parts of Africa, it happens also in Malaysia, when we were once colonized by British, those days, and we have to fight for our independence. We were struggling, but we were constrained by then, by those so-called colonial powers. We were a terrorist, but for us, the connotation cannot be subdued, cannot be agreed upon when it's fight for their rights, the land which is supposed to be theirs, the political independence. That's why I said the connotation of political independence, territorial integrity and sovereignty of a nation links together. Without political independence, how can you have territorial integrity? And without territorial integrity, you cannot say you have sovereignty in your nation.
We go for a break and then return with the Malaysian acting High Commissioner of Malaysia.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Our conversation continues on the show. Now, High Commissioner, there has been, one of the things that have been said is to say that already 10,000 Palestinians have been killed in retaliation by Israel. That already violates what you said earlier, to say that the retaliation has to be proportionate to what has happened. And there's unspeakable crimes being committed in retaliation. But what people have said so far, many commentators, is that the bullets cannot kill the idea and the ideology and the will of the people. We are hearing now Israel saying that they want to take over Gaza and be some sort of authority there in the interim, which I've never heard of in any case. It sounds like a violation of international law already to go into a country and take over its leadership. But do you think, in the absence of actual negotiations, do you think that bombing and shooting people will solve this problem, this confrontation?
In English, we have a proverb, a pen is better than a sword. It also interplays with the international scene. I don't agree that you have to kill people and civilians in order to pursue your agenda. And some of the justification saying that the mosque and hospital are being used as a so-called shelter for the Hamas, the terrorists, they said, the captured 240 Israeli prisoners are all. How could you how could you say that? And what more? There was also a announcement made by some of the ministers of Israel, say they're going to use nuclear weapons. If you bomb them, the shelter, wouldn't you also bomb your own citizen? The 240 Israelis being captured. So I don't agree with the way they are doing things. What more, you are committing not just war crimes. You're committing an act of aggression. You're committing crimes against humanity. You're also committing a crime of genocide. What actually happened in 1940 to 1945? Are you going to repeat back again now, and you are doing it whatever people are doing it to you before? You can give a lot of justification. You can say that, oh, we did not commit any crime against the Nazis. I don't condone Nazism, no, of course. But what are you doing right now? You are actually doing again what was done to you. You're committing a crime of genocide. You are actually cleansing the ethnic of Palestine from that territory. There are many refugees outside there, Palestinian refugees. What happened to you when those Nazis did it to you? You left and you came to Palestine, and you created your own state. There's no issue about that, You created your own state. It was agreed by international community via Resolution 181 of the UN at that time. But there was agreed to have a partition state as well. So by condoning the act of, you can go and war, you can do ethnic cleansing, you can take over the administration and everything, that's going to the principle of so-called political independence, again, territorial integrity and sovereignty of a state. People can say that Palestine is not a state, but for us, many of us, we recognize Palestine. And Oslo Accord recognized the Palestine Liberation Organization as the self-government center, blah, blah, blah. And also, in some sense, the so-called state in Hamas, state of Gaza, plus state of Palestine in West Bank. But you occupied a territory, and then you propagate the issue that the so-called illegal occupant the settler can do whatever they want, while at the same time you don't give the right to the Palestinian who is staying in your territory. So for me, that is not advisable. It's not a good thing to do.
Do you think, Ambassador, that there is also religious hatred, if you like, or religious hate influencing what we are seeing? Because, I have seen people make very disparaging remarks about the Muslims, about the Arabs, like they are filthy beings, they are terrorists, all of them, they are not people of peace. And that narrative is speaking up so much support in the Western communities. Do you think that what we are seeing is also influenced by religion?
The issue of Islamic phobia, or feeling of phobia towards Islamic people or Muslim, is there. We don't say it. It's perspective. But you must understand also the conflict in Palestine does not only involve the Palestinian Muslim. There are 47,000 Palestinian Christians in Palestine. They also does not escape impunity. They were also prosecuted and persecuted. They were the ancient Christian who lived there with the Palestinians during those ancient times, even with the Jews, with the Muslim, with the Christians. And if you say that the war is just, the so-called conflict or clashes is just with the Muslim because they felt the Muslim is being, but what about the Christians? They are also being perpetrated with this crime against humanity. Some of them even being killed. The civilians, the women, the children. So it's not a question of Muslim as per se. It's not a question of Islamic phobia. I think the issue is people always deem the equation that Muslim are terrorists. No, there are also incidents where there are other kind of religion of faith are also terrorists. It's only because of one person you assume that everyone are the same. In Malay proverb, there's a saying that because of one point of ink in a bowl of milk, the bowl of milk become blue.
Yes.
So it cannot have that connotation. Not because one person, everyone you lament as terrorists.
Yeah.
For me, from my perspective, this issue does not have got to do with religion. Because if it have got to do with religion, then it's more of the issue of the Christians has also been prosecuted, not just the Muslim. And some Jewish also, with due respect, they are also in support of the Palestinian cause, especially in America. In America, some of the Jewish said, what's happening? Why are you killing the civilians? Why are you killing the children, the women, the babies? You're bombing the hospitals for what? What do you achieve by you having this kind of thing? Please, I'm begging. We have to have the feeling of human being, because at the end of the day, we are only living this world at a short life.
Yeah.
We will be answered and questioned by God. What have you done to your human? For them, the Palestinians, they have no worry anymore. In fact, they were saying when they were carrying the dead bodies of their children, man, I'm grateful to God that they take their life, because for them, they don't want the suffering to be happening to their children.
Yeah, absolutely. International institutions, Ambassador, your UNs and all these other organizations, the Hague, the organizations that have really pronounced themselves on this issue for many years. Because you also spoke about several decisions of these bodies that continue to be trampled upon. Is international law a fallacy? Is it only for the weaker nations and stronger nations are exempted from it? Or why is it that you have those rulings in place, but still we see what is happening?
You can say international law as akin to a domestic law. Sometimes you can say that people going to the traffic, red color traffic, they escape. While those people like us driving, suddenly the police catch us and get a summon. The same thing as international law. It is a law that regulates states. According to the Article 38 of the Statute of ICJ, they are the sources of international law. Point taken, what happened during Nuremberg? Some of the Germans, they were saying that why I'm being tried by those committing atrocities by the other part of the Western or the victors, I escape with impunity. The Japanese also, they say the same thing. Why is that some people escape with impunity, but some others get into trial? So back to the issue. Of course, we have the United Nations Security Council. They are being destined to actually take care of the peace and maintenance of the so-called global security that was already embalmed in the United Nations Charter. Unfortunately, because of the rivalry between the countries in the United Nations Security Council, you know who are they? The British, the UK, of course, USA, we have France, we have also Russian, and we have China. So among them also there are divisive philosophies, ideology, the way of doing things. So the US, of course, I'm not saying anything against US, they are superpowers, but you have to look at the equation of promoting international law, especially for humanitarian factors. If the law is broken, then you have to ensure that the law is taken care of. When you give justification saying that you have the right to self-defense, we do agree, you have the right to self-defense, but it has to be proportionate. And the right of self-defense in the UN Charter, or the UN, for example, since you praise the issue of UN, is when you have the collective self-defense and individual self-defense. What the Israelis are doing now is individual self-defense, but it has to be proportionate. If you do collective self-defense, then you have to have some gravity. Is it so grave enough that you attack 1,400 civilians in comparison with 9,000, 10,000? You can say that it happens in war.
Yeah.
It is true. But don't go and kill the civilians. Don't go and kill the children, the women, the babies. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to explain to the world?
Absolutely. In conclusion, and very briefly, if you can, Ambassador, everybody has spoken. We have spoken. What is the way forward, in not so many words?
In not so many words. I think the best way is for us to work together. Land is for peace. we already agreed to the two-state solution with the so-called East Jerusalem or Al-Quds as their capital of Palestine. So give way. We'll do it. That can create peace. Although some of the faction will not agree in Palestine, but I think that is the way to move forward.
Absolutely.
And you must have something there. You must have a heart. You must have the feeling that they are also human beings, part of us. Please take care of them.
Absolutely. Ambassador, thank you very
you.
much for making time.
Thank you.
Yes. That is Dato Dr. Mohamad Rameez bin Yahaya. He is the acting High Commissioner for Malaysia here in Windhoek, just sharing his perspectives and that of his government on the Middle East conflict currently brewing between Israel and Palestine. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.